Hi everyone, Jonathan here. Today, I'm going to show an exercise to build your work capacity and many other things. Learning a handstand can take a lot of practice, and we need to make sure we condition ourselves for it. So I'm going to show you how to do a good handstand facing the wall. It can be as simple or as complicated as we want it to be. But if we're smart about it, you can use it to gain much more than just endurance. But before I show you that, I need to teach you how to bail out of a handstand. At this point, you should be able to do cartwheels pretty well. If not, go back to the first video of this series for an explanation on how to learn it. Bailing out of a handstand looks a lot like the end of the cartwheel. Actually, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to start you off with a cartwheel, starting with your feet on the wall. So, walk up the wall with your feet, place them in lunging position, one hand forward, and then push and finish your cartwheel. Make sure to reach down with your leg and keep pushing tall with your hands. If you're scared, you can go a bit more to the side to get a feel for it at first. But ideally, you should be able to direct it straight away from the wall. Like that. Once you're comfortable with that, you want to do the same thing but with your hands even. So when you do it, you're going to push, walk forward with one hand, reach down with your foot, and then do your bail out. Up, lunge, walk forward, up. Make yourself really comfortable with this move. It's called twisting out, a bail out, or a cartwheel exit. The reason I want you to learn to do it in a straight angle from the wall is that if you're ever in a class and do it next to other people, you won't crash into each other. Also, if there are obstacles in the environment, you want to have enough control to avoid them. Back to our main business. You're simply going to walk up the wall with your hands and feet. You want to get the heel of your hands as close to the wall as you comfortably can. And from your hands to your pointed toes, your body should form a straight line. Reach up as high as you can up the wall, push through your shoulders. Start with sets of about 30 seconds to get familiar with it. Here's a couple mistakes people tend to make. Trying to touch your chest to the wall when your hands are too far from the wall. This doesn't really create a straight line, and it's very difficult to keep pushing through your shoulders. Not having your toes touching the wall. Given that your body should be a straight line connecting your hands to your toes, this just teaches you to keep your feet too far over. Sinking in the chest. Okay, not everyone's shoulders can extend 180 degrees overhead. That's very fair. But the whole time, you should be pushing tall and trying to get your upper arms next to your ears. Tight shoulders or not. If you're currently working on your shoulder flexibility and your range is improving, it's important to make sure your handstand form keeps up to date with it. Pushing tall and aiming to keep your back as over your head as you can will help build strength in that newly acquired range. Now, here's some useful details to get more out of your handstand facing the wall. First, hand position. In terms of width, aim for about shoulder width. Slightly wider or slightly narrower is acceptable. In terms of distance with the wall, at first, I have no issues with you having your hands a bit further away to get used to the position. But as you progress, you want to get your hands close to the wall. How close? Real close. That means close enough so that you're forced to use your fingers and wrists to push into the floor in order not to fall over. This is really useful to build strength and endurance in your forearms. Of course, do it progressively. Getting your hands too close to the wall can be quite aggressive on the wrist, so you have to see what works for you as an individual. As for the shoulder position, there's two things to consider. The angle of the shoulders and the location of your shoulders above your hands. You want two things specifically. To have your shoulders right above your hands, and to have a shoulder angle that allows your body to be straight above your hands. This means having your shoulders open to almost 180 degrees, but not quite. A common mistake is placing your shoulders too forwards or too backwards, which makes it so that your weight doesn't go straight into the floor through your arms and places your shoulders in a more tiring position that can also be harsh on your wrists or elbows. If you were to trace an imaginary line between your hands and your toes, when you are doing a handstand facing the wall, your shoulders should be located straight on that line, no matter the distance between your hands and the wall. You can test this yourself standing, trying to push into the wall. Adjust your hands and your feet so that you can extend and try to go through the wall. Don't break it though. And then as you push with your legs, shift your shoulders around and feel how the force doesn't necessarily translate straight into the wall according to how you move your shoulders. If I lift my shoulders here, my shoulders want to keep going up. If I shift my shoulders to back here, my shoulders want to keep going that way instead of straight into the wall. But if I line everything up here, I can try to push straight into the wall. Actually feel it flexing right now. Oh, and it cracked. To come back to the exercise itself, you generally want to keep your upper chest and armpits fairly close to the wall, but your ribs further from the wall. Hips should be pretty close to the wall as well. It's important to keep your back above your head. Speaking of which, look at the point between your hands and you should have your fingertips in your field of vision still. Open your shoulders more. Like that? More. How about now? More. Ah! The Russians say to push tall. Like that? No, taller. How about now? Pretty much all corrections can be taken too literally. Think about what you're doing. Most advice or cues are relative and not absolute, so make sure to understand the mechanics of what you're trying to do before applying them. Evaluate your form by filming yourself from the side and from the front to ensure you aren't crooked. In terms of programming, start your handstand sessions with handstands facing the wall. At first, do a couple sets of 30 seconds to fine-tune it and get accustomed to it. Over time, you want to build up to 2-minute sets with your hands very close to the wall. It will help you understand your line, straighten your shoulders and forearms, and make it easier to build to decent hold times once you find your balance. In terms of how it feels, you might notice a couple things. For example, your palms might get sore or even bruise a little bit. It happens to some people. It should go away after a couple weeks of practice. Also, blood might pool in your face. Sure doesn't mind. There's nothing you can do about it. Just make sure to keep breathing. Even though you're pushing tall, you might be tired. Keep breathing. Don't poop yourself from tensing. This concludes our video. I like the handstand facing the wall being the first exercise I incorporate in my students' routine. After that, we add more stuff. Good stuff. Stuff for upcoming videos.